anybody doing pro-life work, because anybody out there praying in front of an abortion clinic, I'm telling you right now, whether you know it or not, and you know it, you're doing hand-to-hand combat with demons. That's where you encounter them. So, Joseph, I want to go through some stories with you so people know, like, this stuff is real. Welcome to the Jesse Romero Show. I'm here with my brother in Christ, Joseph Tamayo. I've known him a long time. He's a good old Southern California boy. I've seen him have a conversion. This man has fallen in love with Jesus Christ, in love with his Catholic faith, and he's one of those serious Catholics. But years ago, when I lived in Southern California, I moved out from Southern California in 2015 to Arizona. I wrote a book called The Devil in the City of Angels. And that book that I wrote, I basically wrote a lot of encounters that I had with people that were diabolically afflicted. Some of them may have been even possessed. So they were encounters that I wrote about with people that were with the diabolic, or people that were involved in some way, shape, or form. They were being influenced by the diabolic. Joseph and me, we email back and forth all the time, and he's still out there in Southern California. And every couple of weeks, he sends me a story. I'm saying, wow, this sounds exactly like some of the things that I saw out there. So, Joseph, welcome to the show, brother. Tell us a little bit about who you are, and I want to start talking about some of the things that you've seen out there as a practicing Catholic, the way God has allowed you to sense and discern and see the diabolical right in Southern California. Joseph, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I work for the state of California. Currently employed as a maintenance technician. My job pretty much requires me to commute a lot of times in the LA area, the greater Los Angeles County area. Sometimes it takes me to the downtown LA area. And so I get to see a lot of the things, I work in the various communities downtown, and in the areas where a lot of time where Skid Row is at too. I work in that area. So I've been working in the LA area for about 17 years now. And one of the reasons that brought me to acknowledge some of the things that I have seen in the downtown LA area is that I've been to a lot of those spiritual warfare conferences that Father Ripperger and Jesse and Terry, all the way back when they had Zachary King. And as I started listening, going to their conferences and listening to a lot of times Jesse's podcasts on the internet, and also listening to Zachary King. And then I've read books by Father Gabriel Amorth. I've been to some of Father Bing Ariano, who is a renowned exorcist, but a lot of Father Ripperger's stories, and the other ones, Father Vincent Lampert and some of the others. Just listening to their describes the things that involve in spiritual warfare. It's opened my eyes, and through a lot of heavy prayer. I'll tell you what's really kind of opened up my eyes to is I'm a pro-life worker. I've been doing pro-life work in front of the abortion clinics for I'm going on 13 years now. And
wow.
you see, I've been physically assaulted, spit at, have stuff thrown at me. They had to call the cops one time when the guy assaulted me in front of the Planned Parenthood in Pomona. Hello to all my pro-life brothers and sisters, B and Mike and Bill and everyone who stand, they stand watch in front of the pro-life, for the pro-life community in front of, but that,
Amen.
And seeing that, and I don't know if you remember, one time I was there with, Steve Perez, my brother Steve Perez, and those witches, we encountered those witches, and we, I used some of the prayers you recommended, and you could see the effect it had on them. And from there, it started opening my eyes, and with the rosary and some of those binding and perimeter prayers, where you could actually see the spiritual effect it had on them. Eventually, drove them off. You know,
Amen.
so we maybe talk about that a little later after.
Sure.
But doing the pro-life work and the spiritual, because you have people right there in your face. We even ran into that brother Reuben and his people. They showed up and they challenged us for several months, you know, getting in our faces and stuff, and that was pretty tough. But anyways, I'll turn it over to you, and I'll let.
Yeah.
That's a little bit about me.
So I have to tell you, Joseph, God bless you, anybody doing pro-life work, because anybody out there praying in front of an abortion clinic, I'm telling you right now, whether you know it or not, and you know it, you're doing hand-to-hand combat with demons. That's where you encounter them. So, Joseph, I want to go through some stories with you so people know, like, this stuff is real. This stuff isn't just things that we talk about as Catholics at a conference. This is our everyday life. This is all around us. I want you to share the first story about called what you would call the Joker. Tell us about that story.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, sometimes I commute to work, you know, and sometimes I'll use my own car, but other times I'll use alternate transportation, you know, what's available. So actually I use the alternate transportation, you know, save money on gas and wear and tear on my car. So one morning, I remember I was commuting to my work near in the LA area. And this has happened quite a bit on other times, but this is one of the more profound experiences. So I got I boarded my transportation, and I always pray my road, because I learned from you to pray 3 times a day: morning, afternoon, and evening. So I was doing my morning prayers. I do my devotionals, my divine office, the Angelus, and I do my rosary and a few other prayers. So I started doing my prayers, and there was a homeless guy sitting around 4 or 5 rows in front of me. And this has happened quite a few, and they're asleep, man. And I pray quietly, just to myself, you know. I mean, if I were to pray right now, you wouldn't even hear me. And this guy was about 4 or 5 rows in front of me, and he was sleeping. And all I could see him, he's sleeping like this. And all of a sudden, as I started doing my prayers, you could see him wake up. He woke up, and he turned around, and he started looking at me, and I'm doing, you know, I'm doing my glory be to the Father. When I say my glory be at the end of a decade rosary, I always do the sign of the cross. And he's just looking at me. He starts laughing at me, and then he starts mimicking me. He starts doing, you know, making, you know, and he's just laughing at me. So but I know not to just say anything or do any verbal confrontation, because it doesn't do any good, because I know the spirit that's in that guy already. So I just continued my prayer, and he would just laugh and chuckle and make fun. But after a time, I finished my rosary, and he was still kind of saying some of his antics. So I had the spiritual warfare app in my computer. So I pulled it up, and I know I should have done a binding prayer, but I did a perimeter prayer. But it seemed to work, because he quieted down, and he stayed quiet all the way till I reached my destination in downtown LA, where I needed to get off to go to work. And he stayed quiet, and he shut up after that. So anyway.
Wow, that's powerful. Well, you know, yeah, you should have done it, but that's okay, because you did a perimeter prayer, and that works for around your location, right there where you're sitting at, right there in the public transit that you're taking. It obviously worked because you calmed him down. And so you see the power of prayer when you start praying mentally. I'm sure, you know, you were not praying vocally or audibly. These are mental prayers, but anybody who has a demon attached to them or some type of diabolic affliction, they can tell when you're praying. Joseph, tell us another. Welcome to the Jesse Romero Show. I'm fired up to share with you my book, Atheism, The Opium of the Elites. 50 questions and answers. Yep, atheism is the devil's gospel. For years, we've been told that atheism is the smart, sophisticated position held by brilliant, open-minded people. But in this book, I flip that script upside down and I show you how modern atheism has become the trendy opium of the ruling class, the elites in media, academia, Hollywood, and politics. I use the clear 50 questions and answers format. I tackle the strongest arguments for atheism and dismantle them with logic, science, history, and solid Catholic teaching. So if you've ever been challenged by an atheist's arguments or want to equip yourself and your family with strong answers, this book is for you. Atheism is the Opium of the Elites, 50 questions and answers. Modern atheism, I expose it for what it is. It's a false religion of the intellectual and cultural elite. And in this book, I answer the most common atheist arguments, again, with logic, science, and Catholic truth. You'll be equipped to defend belief in God and expose the emptiness and hypocrisy behind elite-driven secularism. Atheism is a serious problem because it makes us ignorant of God, which is the reason why humans fall into all kinds of moral problems. Our moral life can only come from a moral lawgiver that we call God. An immoral society is not good for the common good. The Catholic Church regards atheism as a real problem. The Church teaches in the Catechism 2123, atheism must therefore be regarded as one of the most serious problems of our time. Wow. This book is written for priests, laity, parents, anyone who wants to grow in the knowledge, faith, and courage. Whether you're looking for spiritual warfare tools, wisdom, or answers to today's questions from young people about atheism, this book will help you cut through all the noise. Well, that's a wrap, family. This is the Jesse Romero Show. If you enjoyed today's information, I want to personally invite you to pick up a copy of my book, Atheism is the Opium of the Elites, 50 Questions and Answers. It's straight talk, easy to read, packed with solid responses that you can actually see when dealing with skeptics, college students, or family members who've bought into the elite narrative that faith is for the weak and stupid. It's also great for personal reading, apologetics, scripture youth ministry. But I'd be very grateful if you grab the copy from my website, jesseromero.com, and share this information with others to help spread the truth. Thank you for listening. God bless you. Stay strong in the faith and keep fighting the good fight. I'll see you next time. Viva Cristo Rey. Long live Christ the King. Another story, a second one, you call that story The Satanist. Tell us about that one.
That has to do with, well, I was leaving my work and I was getting ready to use my alternate transportation to go home again. So I was crossing the street and LA's become really dark. I mean, they have those nudist bike things and they have these really dark parades. And there was a guy crossing the street, walking the opposite way from me. And he had a really dark, he was a big guy, young guy. He had a pentagram around his neck. He was all in all black. He had a black hood on and he's walking with a pentagram and he had another medal with an upside down cross. He was wearing that around his neck. And I'm just walking and he's looking at me. I'm looking at him. And I just, I could tell he was either, because after listening to Zachary King, and Zachary King was a grand high wizard of the Church of Satan, and he described the accoutrements that he used to wear, and it was exactly. So I could tell this guy was some sort of grand high, and he was walking open. It was like 4 or 5 o'clock. It was all kinds of traffic around. He was not bothered, but he was heading towards the men's central jail. So I don't know if there was any connection there or not. And so, along with a lot of the dark things, I just said a prayer. When I see people like that, I just say a prayer.
Good job.
I don't know if I can say this, but you see a lot of transsexuals downtown LA too. They're out in the open. Mm-hmm. And I've had some of them as I'm doing my work. I've seen, open, they'll growl at you like dogs, you know what I mean? And I could tell, or they have that voice, that the grungy voice. But anyways, I'll let it go at that. But that's that story.
And that's why you always have to be ready. Anytime you see that, as Catholics, the way we engage with the spiritual world is we start praying. And it could just be mental prayer. You don't have to be vocal, mental prayer. Start projecting prayers from the mind towards that person, asking the light of Christ to fall upon them, praying for surroundings, praying for God's protection, praying for God's grace to fall upon that person. Jose, you got another story. Joseph, you got another story you shared with me a while back ago. It's called The Public Assault. Tell us about that story.
That's just come because, I remember Bishop Sheen said three signs of the demonic are nudity, violence, and schizophrenia, correct? Okay, yes. So, me and some of my coworkers, we're heading towards, take our destination, our transportation home. We were crossing somewhere near Cesar Chavez Avenue, and there was some public transportation there, and we saw this big commotion. People were kind of running back, running away, and there was two guys dragged an individual off the bus, and they were beating the heck out of him right there in public. I mean, the guy was down on the ground. They were jumping on him, kicking him in the head and the face, and he fell under the bus, and they were still kicking him and then the operator got out, and she was a female, and she went and she tried to intervene, and they started attacking her, and they started beating up on her, and fortunate we were able to find some law enforcement that was nearby, and they weren't in visual view, but we told them, hey, there's an assault going on over there. So we directed, but these guys, this was in broad daylight once again, and it's just like, I mean, LA's become this, it's just total anarchy, and so.
Yep. Joseph, it's interesting you say that, because once again, I think all these stories that you've seen that you're going to share with us today, all of them have to do it with Fulton Sheen said. Again, the marks of the diabolic in a society, in a city, in a culture is violence, love of nudity, and also division. It could be also schizophrenia, your own division in your mind, but division, right versus left, black versus white, Republican versus Democrat. All this division, racial strife, cultural strife, economic strife. And what you're seeing in this story, this is a clear sign of the diabolic. This was just rampant violence that basically for no reason other than for violence sake. That, what you just saw, my friend, was the complete hand of Satan right there.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing more of that. I work sometimes downtown in some of the greater, I'm gonna say, you'll see down near the MacArthur Park area and stuff. You'll see, I mean, naked people just running around, women and men. You see people get assaulted right there. The homeless, where they saw a guy laying face down. He just got, I'm not sure if he was dead or he was just laying down, and some homeless guys beat the heck out of him and robbed him right there. And there was nobody doing anything about it, and the police, Joseph, the police are overwhelmed, Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You said something interesting that Los Angeles, you said everywhere you go as you're working, it's basically, you're seeing transsexuals walking around everywhere. Again, that's another sign of the diabolic, because these are people that are confused in their mind. They have this mental confusion, this schizophrenia. They're men that think they're women that think they're men. That's that division that the devil tries to cause in every single one of us, that we call diabolic obsession, where he tries to confuse and divide our way of thinking. And the way it manifests today in society is the whole transsexual movement, the transgenders. These are people that are diabolically afflicted, and their mental thoughts, their ability to perceive and think has been divided by demons. You got another story I want you to share, brothers. You call it parking structure demons. Tell us about that.
Yeah. I'll have to use my be careful with my language on that. But that I was getting towards the end of my day, and I was in a parking structure near Vignes, and I was doing some paperwork, and then I was doing my mental. I like to do my mental prayer at the end of the day. 30 minutes of mental prayer, and I just finished my
Good job.
my end of the day rosary, and I was doing some mental prayer, and I was just doing my paperwork, sitting in my vehicle, and in my work vehicle, and I saw this strange couple walking nearby, and they had this weird kind of look. You see regular couples, families, you see them walking around, they're looking okay, no big deal. But these people, I don't know if I don't sound like I'm an expert. I'm not an expert, but you can tell people right off the bat. Maybe it's a spiritual thing, an aura they give off. But these people were really dark looking, and within a few moments, I just noticed